Frank makes me sound a lot smarter than I am. Let's get that out there right now. Well, thank you for having me. I know you guys got busy days, so we'll make this short and sweet. All truth be told, I've probably got way more slides than I have time to talk, so I'm going to try to get it all in before Frank gives me the hook.
I just got to mention, 20 minutes and then 10 minutes for questions.
Yep.
Okay?
Got it.
Sorry to mention.
Nope, that's good.
Sorry to interrupt you.
So the PowerPoint is kind of built into two halves. I'm going to give you some information on how we determine origin and cause in a fire scene, and then we'll look at some case studies that we had over the past year of some active fires we had here in the city. And then that'll be the interactive part. I'll ask you what you think about the scene, and then we'll kind of talk about it. Does that sound fair enough? Yep. All right. So origin and cause. My job as an origin and cause investigator is to make a determination on where it started, what was the cause of it, was it accidental or intentional, and then if there was a loss of life, what contributed to their death, how can we prevent that in the future, whether that would be community outreach, maybe we need to look at some new standards and get them put into our building codes and things of that nature. For the fire department, anyone that's on a fire department as an investigator, we're called the public sector versus the private sector, which is your insurance companies and people that have technical backgrounds and certain skill sets. That's where company investigators come in. So company investigators are going to be your manufacturers of products. If there's a clothes dryer that has a habit of catching fire, we all share information nationally to say this is the particular model and unit, and we can share that information amongst each other. And then the company investigators will come out. They will look at our origin and cause determination and determine who's liable. That way the resident has the best possible outcome for getting their insurance payout and things of that nature. Insurance investigators, much of the same, right? If somebody files a claim because they had a house fire, the insurance companies will send out their own private investigators. We work collaboratively with them to assure that our investigation is in the same manner that they is, the cause and determination is matches, and then that homeowner again has the best possible outcome for a payout. And then last but not least, we've got state, federal, and local government. That's more of a national type incident. The civil unrest we had a few years ago in Minneapolis, St. Paul, that's where we get some of those state and federal resources in. You're going to learn in the next few slides how in-depth an investigation can be and how time-consuming it can be. And we just don't have enough resources locally here in the fire departments to be able to effectively investigate multiple fires like they saw in 2020. So, causes of fires. There's really 4 causes that we make a determination on: accidental, incendiary, undetermined, and natural. So accidental fires, just how it sounds, right? You could have an appliance fail, causes a fire, that would be determined accidental. If you had a recreational fire in your backyard and you were following all the city ordinances and a gust of wind came up, blew an ember out of that containment area into maybe a brush pile next door, and the fire grew to the point where we had to come and extinguish it, that would be ruled an accidental fire because it's nothing that you intentionally did, right? Incendiary fires are intentionally set. So these fires, also known as arson fires, right? So there was ill intent, somebody knew right from wrong, but they did it anyways for whatever reason. That's what an incendiary fire would be classified as. Natural fires, lightning strikes are huge around here. Even ice storms, right? Ice storms can build up on power lines. Power lines can droop down into tree lines, maybe even to a home that has overhead service coming in. The house catches on fire. Now that's a natural cause because the ice and the weight of the power lines is what failed. And then undetermined. So NFPA 921 is a book about 1 inch thick, and it tells me what I should do in each and every investigation. It covers electrical failures, it covers natural causes, it covers all of these bullet points. My job as an investigator is to look at any and all potential sources that would cause that fire and then single-handedly rule them out one by one. If I'm able to get down to one single cause, I can name it either natural, accidental, or incendiary. But if I can't, then it becomes an undetermined fire. And unfortunately, in a lot of fires, they do become undetermined because we just simply can't rule out every single possibility and sort that down to one proven incident. So evidence. Demonstrative evidence, that's anything that's tangible. So if I have a lamp that looks like it failed, that would be demonstrative evidence. I could collect that, document it, and then pass it off to forensics if we feel that it failed on its own and there was no foul play involved. Photographs are great. Everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone likes to take videos. We see all these YouTube videos. The news outlets publish all this information. That's great information to have. If we can obtain it, it helps us in doing that origin and cause investigation. Because if I can see what happened leading up to the fire, through the fire, and then beyond, it makes my job a whole lot easier because it just is one more piece of the puzzle that I can use to make sure I'm going down the right path. Illustrative forms are great. So if I have a room on fire or a home that was on fire, I will document that room or home and map it all out. And we will measure the distance from a wall to a chair and things of that nature, because all those distances make a difference in how that fire is going to burn and how it's going to progress through either that room or that home. And it's all valuable information. And if there was ill intent and it's an incendiary fire, the courts and the lawyers will rip us apart if we can't prove where things were in an individual room. So it's super important that we document our scenes as much as we can. Samples are the same thing. If we had a feeling that an accelerant was used in a fire, we would get a sample of that potential item that had the accelerant on it, and then a piece of carpet, for example. If I knew accelerant was here, I would grab a sample from this piece of carpet and I would grab one from over there that was unaffected. That way the forensics teams can compare the two, because nowadays all the materials that we have in our homes and businesses, they all have different chemical makeups and they're intended to not burn very easily, but at the end of the day they still do. So if we can rule out the chemical makeup of certain products, that helps us determine whether or not an accelerant is used. Documentation, we talked about this a little bit already. Documentation comes in a lot of different forms, not only from my side when I'm investigating a scene, but we're gonna check into the homeowner's insurance policy. We might check on their tax records. Law enforcement is a big help in this. Chief Newton, one of his detectives, is trained at the same level I am. So the law enforcement side, they're really good at helping us out with things like this, because that just, it naturally occurs to them in their line of duty. So having Detective Hager work side by side with me is a huge help, and we certainly appreciate it, because a lot of this kind of stuff, interacting with people, I'm not as well versed in it as he is. So we will gather any and all data just to make sure that there was no ill intent on each and every fire. And then just testimony, right? Anybody that might have been on scene, what happened leading up to the fire? Have you had any problems with your home in the recent days, weeks? Because if they say, well, my kitchen circuit's been tripping lately, and they have a kitchen fire, it's entirely possible they had faulty wiring, whether a mouse chewed through a circuit or who knows what. So that's all good information that we can use to just put another piece of that puzzle together. So once the fire's out, burn patterns is another way that we can try to figure out where the fire might have occurred. So V patterns are probably the most well-known. Let me get my laser pointer up. So here's a V pattern here, right? Fires that produce an ash. when burned, generally have a V pattern associated to them. So here it looks like there's some trash on the top of a shelf, and obviously here's our V pattern. So the V pattern is going to probably point right to that origin. Makes it pretty easy. But then you get into rooms like this where the entire room was on fire. Now I don't have that V pattern, but I've got clean burn. So clean burn indicates high areas of heat. So if we look behind this sofa chair and we look above it, we got clean burn. That tells me that chair gave off enough BTU to burn the soot off the wall right here and overhead, so that they're not always as clean cut as this. If the firefighters come in and put the fire out, there's a good chance they've moved that bed, they've moved that chair, they've moved that dresser drawer. With that clean burn pattern, I can go back, put the room together with the help of the witness to say, where was your bed, where was your chair, and we can start putting that puzzle together and kind of back trace our steps to determine where the fire started originally. Here's an ignitable liquid pattern. So obviously that's a tile floor of some sort, and it certainly appears to me that where this picture is taken from, the fire started there, it moved toward the wall, and then burned up that wall. So again, as I referenced earlier, we would take a sample from here and probably a sample from over there, and then the forensics team would be able to tell us what kind of accelerant was used, and then we can start looking at maybe records and receipts from that particular person to see if they purchased gasoline or some kind of petroleum product, whatever we believe was used in that fire, and try to come down to that single source determination. And wood char. So everyone's seen a campfire and you've seen that wood just char deeper and deeper and deeper. The same thing on a structure fire. We can look at the structural components of the home and make a determination of where the highest areas of heat were, and depending on that depth of char, we can determine where the fire likely started, because it would have burned the longest in that area. So what do I do as an investigator? A lot, according to Frank. So during the fire, if I'm on scene, I'm kind of watching what the firefighters are doing, how they're doing it, because if the fire's in the corner and they spray water all over, they might have washed soot off the walls or the ceiling, and that removes some evidence for me. If they overhaul that room and they start moving the furniture around, I need to be aware of that. So I'm watching a lot of things that they're doing on the fire ground. If they break a window, the fire might go toward the window instead of the other direction naturally, because now it's got oxygen from a different source. So all those things play into this origin and cause determination from the time the fire starts till we're done and we're ready to clean up. Once the fire's out, we need to secure the scene immediately. Law enforcement's great help with that, because the less contamination we have on the scene, the less people in and out of that scene, the easier it is to try to start working through the debris and making that origin and cause determination. If I need help, I will oversee those overhaul activities and have the firefighters dig through rubble. More than likely, though, we do it on our own because it's a pretty methodical process, and it just takes time, because even small pieces of AA batteries are a huge clue as to where or what might have started fire. And then post cleanup, we kind of looked at the burn patterns already and what evidence of ignition sources there are that's present. Spoke a little bit about 921 earlier, so that's a guidebook for me that gives me that systematic approach to each and every fire investigation. Doesn't matter how small the fire is or how big the fire is, whether it's a $5 loss or a $300,000 loss, we approach them the same each and every time, to give us that consistency mark and to make us credible in court if we ever had to get to that point. NFPA 1033 is the standards and the qualifications that I need to be trained to in order to conduct origin and cause investigations. All right. So, 2024 year in review. We got about 6 fires we're going to go through. We had a total of 81 active fires when we arrived on scene that required us for extinguishment. We're going to talk about, this is Buffalo Wild Wings. Last February they had a commercial kitchen fire. It was relatively small in nature. Just before the dinner rush hour, one of the staff members noticed flames behind the deep fryer. They manually activated their Ansel system, which makes a complete mess in the kitchen. It's a potassium nitrate product that extinguishes grease fires, and it was like a skating rink inside there. We estimated the dollar loss at $500. It was far greater than that, only because we don't know what type of business they lost that particular day, because they had to close down, they had to decon their kitchen and subsequent areas. The Washington County Health Inspector had to come out, give them a clean bill of health before they were allowed to reopen the following day. Here's an interesting case. So this is a garage fire on Goodwin Avenue. Firefighters arrived on scene, had a working garage fire. They cut a hole in the garage door. We didn't go in the front door of the home, and I'll show you why in a minute. But they went in straight through the garage door. Significant fire in the garage. They got the fire knocked down. But here's what the interior of the home looked like. You wouldn't have even known there was a fire there. And the reason being is because the door was shut, and that fire-rated door did its job. It's kind of hard to see on the display there, but right up here, there's a bunch of delamination on the door, which tells me heat was very high up by the ceiling, which we would fully expect. But since the door didn't fail and we didn't come in and attack the fire from that door, we kept all the smoke, heat, and residue out of the home, minimizing the damage on the house. And we estimate that around $65,000 to get that garage rebuilt and the personal property replaced. This was an intentionally started fire. The call initially came in as a person in crisis when law enforcement got on scene. This particular resident was having a mental health crisis. They had intentionally lit their doormat outside their unit, trying to get our attention. So logically, you'd probably call 911, but in this person's mind at that point in time, this was the right thing to do. So no harm, no foul, nobody was injured. We did not press charges. Building management did not press charges. We transported this person to Regions Hospital for further care and evaluation. Here's a kitchen fire on 4th Street. Resident was gonna deep fry some fish that was still partially frozen. So when they dropped it in the hot oil, they had a kitchen fire. If we think back a few slides, here's our V pattern, right? So what are we thinking? Where did the fire start? On the stovetop. Left side or right side? Yeah, the right side. Because if we zoom in a little closer, there's the overhead cabinets. We got a lot more char on this cabinet door than that door, further proving that the fire was on the right side. And the homeowner was forthcoming with what happened. It made complete sense, and the investigation pretty much stopped at that point. Fortunately, they were displaced. American Red Cross was contacted, and they were put up with temporary housing until their belongings could be cleaned and the insurance company could rebuild the home. I arrived at this at Oak Marsh Golf Course. It's a skid steer that was fully involved. Grounds crew were clearing out some trees in the fall, and they called 911, said our machine's on fire. When we got on scene and put the fire out, this is what we saw. So on the left side of the machine, we still got some paint visible. Engine's got some significant damage due to the heat and the flames. And then the right side's got even more damage. So if you were to guess, where do you think the fire started on this? The right side. Most people would say the right side. I probably would too. But the trick is, if we go back to this picture, the wind is out of the west, so it blew all the heat and flame toward the right side. The grounds crew, in fact, the operator that was running this machine said the fire started underneath his seat. He noticed flames. Now, luckily, the orientation of the forks are just how they are, and he was able to get that cab door open and escape. Otherwise, he would have been trapped inside. So he's very lucky that he didn't get hurt more significantly than they did. But, you know, when you look at evidence like this and then you talk to the witnesses, you get some different perspectives, so you can see how this can be challenging at times. All right, Frank, here's your fire. So Stillwater Boulevard. In 2009, this house burned to the ground. We had heavy fire throughout the entire home. The resident was outside and safe. It was a lone individual. We got the fire out. Well, they did not have insurance at that time. So since 2009, they've been single-handedly rebuilding their home piece by piece. Fast forward to December 30th of 2024, they had another fire with the same outcome, unfortunately. When we got on scene, heavy fire, those are pictures of when we got on scene. And, you know, as an investigator, it's like, how did the fire get this big so quick? Couldn't quite figure it out. Well, then, talking with the owner, it's kind of hard to see. I apologize. It's clearer on my screen. There is no sheetrock throughout the entire home. He was in the process of doing all the electrical wiring. He had left to go get dinner, and in the southeast corner of the home, there was a sofa recliner and a portable heater. We're thinking the portable heater malfunctioned and or caught the couch on fire, and then the fire just rapidly spread through the entire home because there was no sheetrock to stop it. So it was just a tinder box going up, and the neighbors are the ones that called it in, and they said by the time we got done talking to the dispatcher, the whole house was fully involved. It went that quick. So unfortunately for this gentleman, he was displaced a second time. The city's currently working with him. And yeah, it was a complete loss. So it was around $300,000 for that property. Super sad story. And then the last incident I want to talk about is 56th Street. So this is in 29 Pines. It's the pre-manufactured home community up by Fleet Farm and Marcus Theater. We got called around 10 o'clock for a fully involved pre-manufactured home. I took this picture. This is what I had when I got on scene. Due to the close proximity of the homes there, the neighboring homes started to catch on fire. I think we had 9 departments total helping us with this fire in particular because we had limited water sources there, and it was challenging. It was very cold out that night. When you look at these pictures, where do you think the fire started? This is the street side right here, and this is the alley side of the home. It started on the street side, right? Because everything's burned away. This is kind of looking at the home head on. There's a stove here. The homeowner wasn't real forthcoming with any answers that law enforcement or myself were trying to get out of them. We talked to XL Energy. It's not uncommon for them to come out to calls because they will secure the utilities for us to make it safe for us to A, put the fire out, and B, investigate it thereafter. Well, XL said his power and gas has been shut off since September. So now I'm thinking, all right, you were doing something to heat the property, because again, this is January 6th of this year. Well, what we found in the center of the home, right where the most mass is lost, is a turkey fryer burner with 20-pound propane tanks. So they were heating their home with propane in an open flame. They do have a dog, so it's possible the dog might have knocked something over. Luckily, everybody got out, but unfortunate for the neighbor, they had some damages to their own property. So, yeah. So it was a busy year for us as far as structure fires go. We came up with just over $500,000 in total loss. That number is likely higher just because we don't necessarily find out months after the fact what the insurance companies actually pay out for personal belongings and things of that nature. We just due diligence and we make our best estimate. So that's what I have for you guys. I apologize I went through it so fast, but I want to give you some opportunities to ask questions. Frank?
Okay, the house on Stillwater Road, would he be liable? He didn't have insurance again, is that correct? Okay, the fact that he didn't have sheetrock and all that, was that just because he hadn't got to that?
Right. So he was following the process for building. So he had a permit to get his electrical wiring done. Once that permit gets signed off, then he could start covering the walls up with drywall. But because he wasn't quite done, he literally, I think he was probably 2 weeks away by his estimation of getting drywall hung. And then that fire occurred.
Okay.
Yes?
So as an insurance agent, luckily in 14 years, we haven't had a house fire. I don't want to put that out there, but so obviously I've seen, I've been in, continuing ed classes and restoration companies and all that kind of stuff. Between the time that you go out there, do your inspection, when do the restoration companies typically get called in? What's that like time? Do you have to get finalized, like try to figure out what that determining factor is before they can get there?
Sure. It depends on the incident. So if we have a lightning strike, which we did down on 12th Street, the fire traveled throughout the home. We had a couple hot spots that we put out. Being that there was heavy rain forecasted in the next 24 hours, we asked the homeowner how they would like to proceed. We generally tell the homeowner, reach out to your insurance company because they can give you the best direction on board-up companies and how they want to handle the claim. For that incident, it was middle of the night. They knew they weren't going to be able to talk to someone right away, so we called out a board-up company. We got tarps placed over the roofs to minimize the damage. And then all we can do is hope that the insurance company is understanding of our decision that point in time, and then work with the homeowner.
And then for that guy on Stillwater Boulevard, Frank, let him know there's a course of construction insurance policy. So if something happens for a third time, he can have a claim instead of having to do it on his own.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Are you seeing any trends with respect to fire, number of fires, types of fires?
Not necessarily. I will say from Christmas till about January 10th, we had about 6 significant fires that required multiple department response. I don't know why. That's very uncommon for us to have a run of fires like that. It was cold, and when you do get cold temperatures, people tend to try to put space heaters in places to keep pipes from freezing up and things of that nature. So I guess you could say there's a little bit of a pattern in that, but not necessarily as a general figure.
And a side question, I'm not sure if this is your area or not, number of volunteers versus full-time firefighters?
For us, we are all career. So we were a combination department for many years, and then in 2022, we closed down our corporation. We were approved to hire enough firefighters to supplement the loss of those paid on-call volunteers, and now we're fully career. So we staff 7 firefighters per day, and then the chief and myself Monday through Friday in the office.
Hi, point of clarification here. We do have, we're very proud of the fact we have almost all medics. So the firefighters are almost all medics, and then we run a big ambulance service. That's what keeps them so busy. We need that many staff on every day.
Last year we ran just under 4,200 calls for the year. 80% of those were all medical transports via our own ambulances. Yep. Yes?
I don't know if anyone saw, but my daughter saw the TikTok fire blanket around Christmas, and that's what everybody got for a Christmas gift. My question is, do you have one and have you tested it?
We do not have one. We've considered getting one. They're quite spendy, and there's not a lot of data out there now as far as how often they can be reused. And for the number of vehicle fires we get, that could be quite expensive for us. And we're not quite sure if insurance companies would support that and be able to replenish our supply as we put them out. Vehicle fires, generally speaking, are a complete loss no matter what the extent of damage is, just because the way things are built these days and priced out. I will say in the past week, they're advising fire departments to stop using those blankets. If a blanket is used on a vehicle fire, it generally has to stay in place for about 3 days to make sure the batteries on the car are completely discharged and won't reignite. Because that blanket, the theory behind it is that it starves the fire of oxygen. So it's got to stay for about 3 days, because lithium-ion batteries, for example, hold a charge for 72 hours, or can up to 72 hours. But now what they're finding is those blankets are trapping in hydrogen cyanide and some other gases that are causing explosions in the tow yards when they stay in place for too long. So I'm not trying to scare you.
So the best place would be in the kitchen?
I think they're great. If you have a small one for your kitchen top, that'd be perfectly fine. Yep, absolutely.
What would you say is an absolute, everybody should have one of these in their kitchen? I assume.
Fire extinguisher. I would say a dry chem fire extinguisher. Most of the fires we see are related to cooking of some sort, so a dry chem is a great way to get that fire out.
Follow up to that, how long is that fire extinguisher good? If you've never used it and it's under your sink, how many years can it be there?
As long as the needle is still in the green, it's good. If it's a dry chem extinguisher, you should probably shake it a couple times a year, because if it just sits over time, the dry chem will compact in the bottom, and then when you do try to discharge it for an actual fire, you'll just get a bunch of air and compressed gas, and you won't necessarily get all the dry chem product that's supposed to be in suspension in the tank.
Maybe when you turn your clocks.
That would be a good idea.
You mentioned batteries. Now, those things catch on fire. You can't take them on planes. I mean, they're afraid they're going to catch on fire. So what's the answer to that?
Batteries are dangerous. That's a big hot topic in the investigation side of business right now. There's multiple speakers going around trying to help everybody understand best course of action for travel. I'm not sure what's going to happen with them, but yeah, if you've got lithium-ion batteries and you're going to travel, they're going to want them not stored in your checked luggage due to the extreme temperatures the belly of the plane can be exposed to, and that could cause that battery casing to fail.
Okay, you're done.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.